The leader of the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has been rearrested and brought back to Nigeria to face trial. Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has disclosed. Speaking on the rearrest, the lead counsel to the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, had said that Kanu is still presumed innocent of all the allegations under the law. And Kanu denied all the allegations that his fleeing the country in September of 2017 amounts to him jumping bail. Well, joining us to discuss this is Professor Richard Wokocha. He is an associate professor of public law at the River State University. And of course, we are being joined by Barrister Jide Ologun. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Great.
Good evening.
I'm going to start by looking at the situation. Yes, the court has placed a date for his hearing, but let's just look at the man himself. In 2017, just as I said, he jumped bail, although he has said the reason why he fled the country was for his own safety. He feared for his life. But I want to start by looking at how Nnamdi Kanu was arrested. The government had told us that it was done in collaboration with security agencies on the international scene. But then there's something called a red notice, and I'd like to put it on the screen so that you can understand where I'm going to. I'll tell you what a red notice is. It is a request to law enforcement worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender, or similar action, a legal action. Now, there are two types of information under red notices. It contains two forms of information. The first one is the information on the identity of the wanted person, name, date of birth, the nationality, hair color, eye color of the person, etc., and even a picture of the person that's being wanted. Again, the second information that is contained in a red notice is information that is related to the crime that the person may have, committed allegedly. So, because both of you are learned gentlemen, I'm going to ask this question, even though that's not necessarily what the government has given us. I mean, the information we have is sketchy. Do you think that the government followed this process to get Nnamdi Kanu back into the country? I'll start with you, Professor Wokocha.
The government has told us that they followed due process. And I am a bit, not amazed, but a bit, I have wondered since yesterday why that appears to us to be very important, because the trial is a domestic issue. And with respect to the procedure for trial, if a fugitive is recovered and brought back to court, trial will continue. It's of no consequence how he was arrested and where he was arrested from. That has no effect and no consequence on the trial process. So I have wondered why we have dwelt so much and spent so much time on how he was arrested. It bears no relevance to the trial process.
So you're saying that he's a fugitive, and so however the government decides to apprehend him and bring him back to the country, it's not of any importance. And even if his fundamental human rights were being one way or the other trampled on, we should not be asking questions?
A fugitive is one who is on the run from the...
I think we will go to Barrister Ologun for a minute because we're having connection issues with Professor Wokocha. Barrister Ologun, can you jump in here and tell me what you think about the issue of a red notice and how he was brought into the country? Do you also hold the opinion of Professor Wokocha?
The Prof mentioned the government followed due process. But then we all know that Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen. And I think the British government is coming out to say that he was not released through extradition processes. And I think an issue is being raised on how he was arrested. And we have several reports right now. One claiming that he was arrested in Zek, another one claiming that he was arrested in Kenya. that Kenya and the Nigerian government came together to get him arrested. But then, let's wait and see how this unfolds. But the big issue we have right now is that he has been brought back to the country to continue trial. Recall that he was on trial, he was granted bail, and he absconded. And he also has addressed the court. The reason why he absconded, that when the military came invading his residence, they killed many persons and he could have been killed. So he had to run for his life, claiming that he probably did not jump bail deliberately. And right now, he has been asked to be kept in the custody of the DSS, pending when the matter will come up again in court on the 26th of July, 2021. And the lawyers are ready to engage issues that arise. And it is instructive to know that as sensational as this may be, that under Section 36 of Chapter 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, there's a provision that every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty. So the government really has a lot to do in prosecuting Nnamdi Kanu, and he has been accused of engaging in subversive activities, including inciting violence through the television, radio, online broadcasts against Nigeria and the Nigerian state, and he's been accused of being involved in treasonable felony, trying to unseat the government rather than through constitutional procedure. And how well the government can prove this in court is the case we have to wait for. But I know that if you look at the serious level of insecurity in the southeastern part of Nigeria, leading to the killings of military, paramilitary, police forces, destruction of civil institutions, and symbols of authority, it may also be brought in there. But like I mentioned, as we speak now, Nnamdi Kanu is presumed innocent of all these allegations until the prosecutor, proves beyond all reasonable doubt, and he is convicted, be penalized for these allegations. Otherwise, he will be acquitted and discharged. And then all this, we just go into the blues. But I must say, beyond that Nnamdi Kanu that we are talking about was born on September 25, 1967. And recall that the Biafran War started in 1967 and ended in 1970, claiming several lives. And that tells us that beyond Nnamdi Kanu, we have a movement that is ongoing. Actually, what used to be notable about the country, asking for self-realization. And in fact, the coalition of northern groups said that the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, may not end the Biafran agitation. Also, I think the government should look beyond Nnamdi Kanu and begin to address the fundamental crisis that we have in the country, that we define our coexistence on the platform of our motto that says unity and faith, peace and progress. Because as we speak now, we have agitations in the Middle Belt, even in the North, we have the Southwest. And what is all this all about? It's about engaging our commonwealth for the common good of the citizens.
Okay, I will come back to you, Barrister Ologun, because you've dug deep into issues that I wanted to bring up later. But back to you, Professor Wokocha. I hope that you can hear me now. Yes. Barrister Ologun has made some interesting points, and before now you seem to be, you have actually said that, the circumstances in which he was brought into the country is not necessary and not as important as the case that, is before the court. But Barrister Ologun is saying that, look, he's a British citizen and the British government is saying that, the proper ways or the proper modus operandi for extradition was not followed by the Nigerian government. Will this also pose a problem in terms of, the case that is at hand?
Certainly not. That's exactly the point I was making, that the question of how he was apprehended or arrested and all that may generate a diplomatic row between the countries, but it will have no consequence on the trial process. Now, there is no circumstance in which the court will say, oh, hold on here, we can't go on with this trial, take him back to where you brought him from, apply properly and get him properly before you bring him back after he jumped bail and the court issued bench warrant. So it will have no effect on the validity of the trial process, but it can generate a diplomatic row between the two countries if the country from which he was arrested is of the opinion that due process was not followed. But it will have no consequence on the validity of the trial.
And like I said, the circumstances are a bit shaky and, you know, blurry. We really can't ascertain which is true or who's telling the truth. And that's because a lot of information has not been released to the public. But let's go back to the statement that was credited to Nnamdi Kanu as to if he jumped bail or not. He had addressed the court saying that he was afraid for his life as to the fact that the army had sacked his family home and certain people were killed, and that's why he ran away. Does that, I mean, and we're not preempting the court case right now, I'm just saying, would that in any way hold water in court if we were to make this as a case?
That will explain, that will provide a reason why he jumped bail. As for whether he jumped bail, the answer is yes. From the moment you fail to turn up for your trial, when trial dates are fixed, you have jumped bail. So what he has done is provide a good reason, so to speak, for his jumping bail to explain why he couldn't come for his trials. That does not affect the substance of the trial itself. Neither does it affect the substance of his case. The question of whether he jumped bail or not does not affect the charges before him. It raises question as to whether he was irresponsible and abused the privilege of the court in granting him bail. It does not at all touch the issue of the allegations before the court concerning him, which have to be proved beyond reasonable doubt as criminal allegations. It doesn't touch that at all.
There are charges that have been brought against him, of course, treasonable, felony. We've heard, you know, that he's also being charged for terrorism and the likes. But we remember when Nnamdi Kanu was agitating for the state of Biafra, he did say, and I'd like to quote him directly, that for this issue of Biafra, the agitation to be put to bed, there needs to be a referendum. And Pastor Ologun has said that government needs to sit down and dialogue with, the people from that part of the country, the southeast, because for us to getting a Nnamdi Kanu right now might not be the end to Biafra, just as he said. But you were quoted, you granted an interview on radio today, and you were quoted to say that arresting Kanu would help the government to negotiate with Igbo leaders. And I'm trying to understand, how does this work?
You know, prior to his arrest, the scenario unfolded in the southeast was becoming extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous in the sense that it became unsafe even for Igbo leaders to speak up. They were no longer sure of what to do and where to be. And I'm sure that for a number of them, it became difficult for them to even think of going home if they were not already originally at home. So if you have this scenario and he is not in position to, quote and unquote, influence whatever was happening in the southeast, it opens the door for real leaders, representatives of the people, I don't mean elected representatives, leaders of the ethnic nationality to sit down and to dialogue with the government. It takes that fear off and it takes that distraction off. And if the government is serious, they can discuss. My friend just talked about the situation in the country. He's absolutely correct. And it's not about Biafra. This country is on a tripod of gunpowder waiting to explode. And I do not see the government doing anything to show the consciousness that, look, there is trouble looming around the corner. Biafra is just, agitation for Biafra is just one. People are complaining about refugees emerging within their own home. And people are being driven out of their territories. And I wonder what's going to happen in this country in the next 1 year when farmers cannot farm to produce food. We are in trouble in this country, and the government does not seem to be conscious of it at all, and it's not doing anything about it. The agitation for Biafra is just one. There are agitations all over, in the West, in the Middle Belt, and the North, as he said. Absolutely correct. And this country, this government needs to realize that we are heading towards a collision course, and anything can happen. we need to sit down and discuss how we want to coexist as a country.
Okay. I want to quickly ask you one more question before I go
If
back
it
to
was not,
Barrister.
if it was considered a talk show before now, it is now absolutely necessary.
Okay. I just want to quickly ask you, push back on something that you said earlier on, that Kanu, while Kanu was not arrested, there seemed to be some form of fear. I'm trying to understand where states in the southeast that have governors, they have elected officials, senators, and all of these people have security, especially the governors, they have the powers to security. And you're telling me that one person, a person who has no powers of the state, is a non-state actor. You're telling me or insinuating that Nnamdi Kanu held the whole Southeast to ransom? Is that what you're telling me? And that there could not be negotiations if there was a need for it between these governments and the federal government? Is that what you're insinuating?
You know, the character of the kind of conflict that emerged in the Southeast was one that put everybody on the line. You recall that the first acid was an attack on the country home of the governor of Imo State. I think that began the deep end of the conflict.
And how is that tied to Nnamdi Kanu, a man that was not in the country? Anybody could have, I mean, we call them unknown government.
Not in the country, but I mean, in
can you really say, I mean, was there a message saying go to the governor's house and burn it down?
But those are for the court to consider. As for whether he was in the country, he does not need to be in the country to be complicit. But
did IPOB say that they were the ones who went to the governor's house to burn it down? Was there a message? Was there a memo sent out to say, we're targeting the government house, we're targeting the electoral offices? Why are we insinuating that that's IPOB? And I'm not in any way speaking for IPOB, I'm just probing.
Now, the inauguration of the Eastern Security Network, which is uniform and military in character and contrary to law, was undertaken, and he addressed on that. And he talked of what they were going to do and all that. But I don't want us to go, I would have rather preferred not to discuss facts that the court will have to deal with.
All right, so I'll move away from it. I
would have preferred not to discuss those facts. But as for participation and whether he did anything, the fact that he was not in the country is not at all an issue, because evidence can be led as to audio clips that were produced in which he gave instructions. Evidence can be led showing video clips in which he gave instructions, proving that those clips are original and proper and all that and admissible are all issues that are going to be before the court. But you don't need to be in the country in today's world to be able to create effect.
Okay, let me go to Barrister Jide Ologun. Again, from what the professor is saying now, does this not also rub off badly on the security apparatus in the Southeast? I'm talking about the governors, the security operatives, the commissioners of police in all of these states. Does it not show a form of weakness? Because this seems to show a lapse in their operations for a group of unknown people to continually attack government facilities in the name of unknown gunmen or attributed to IPOB. Doesn't it show that there had been a collapse of security in those areas, and that's why these people are able to do what they're doing?
Let's start from the macro environment. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And it did not say the people of the north or southeast or southwest or the citizens. So the government has a responsibility to ensure security in the country and to provide meaningful welfare. And if the government has lived up to that expectation, we should not be having the scenario of unknown gunmen. What's the meaning of unknown gunmen? That are invading the country, bandits, some of them imported into this country with supportive policy actions from the government. Look at the case of Sheikh Gumi, who is now the spokesperson for the bandits. He came out to tell us that the government knows where the bandits are, that the bandits are pushed into their terroristic activities because of marginalization. Who is marginalizing them? He is now telling us that the military is even complicit in the activities of bandits, and the military is responding to caution him. DSS invited him. He has been released again. And all these pulls together, we create a worse trust capital deficit that the government has. Don't forget that one of the issues plaguing us in the country now is the issue of nepotism. The presidency, the government has been accused of treating some with kid gloves and coming hard on Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB, while perhaps making excuses for the headsmen who are killing across the country, killing farmers. So,
but Barrister Ologun, could that also be? I'm sorry to speak over you, but could that also be? Hold on. Just hold on. Could that also be the reason why IPOB is being proscribed is because there is a face to it? Could that also be that the bandits, there is no face, and that's why they're called, unknown gunmen, bandits, because there are no faces, there is nobody, fronting for them. Maybe IPOB was proscribed because there was a face, there was a group, there was a movement, but the bandits, we do not know exactly who they are. Could that excuse suffice?
Where do we position Shekau, who has been reportedly killed up to 5 times? In fact, the last report that he either committed suicide or the state of West African province killed him. I do not believe that. You see, I only
that's Boko Haram. Boko Haram, as we all know, is a terrorist organization. We all know that. It's known worldwide. But we're talking about a case of unknown gunmen, people who are disguising as either herdsmen or kidnappers. How do we prescribe those people?
Do you know that this country has, this great country of ours has about 40, if not over 40 security apparatus, not just the military, the Air Force, and the Navy that are commonly known to the people. You have the customs, you have the immigration, several other agencies, ministries, and departments. So if a country like Nigeria is claiming to have unknown gunmen who are operating civilly so freely, we have a virus. We have a terrible case in our hands. And it's a great challenge to the people. I mean, have you recovered from the shock of a report that in Kaduna State alone, within 3 months, 323 human beings were killed, reportedly? I'm not talking about those that were not reported. That 949 human beings were kidnapped. I mean, what are we talking about? Consistently for about 2 years now, you pick the news in the morning, it's about bloodshed, 40-something farmers beheaded, this and that. So I think we have a terrorism invasion in this country. And the most recent development now is that we are hearing that the Boko Haram and the bandits and the Islamic State of West Africa are now collaborating, all right, to push the jihadist agenda. So where do you put the caution of Olusegun Obasanjo that there may be a Fulanization agenda of Nigeria and Islamization of West Africa? And Prof mentioned something earlier about people who are displaced from their natural habitat and others are coming to occupy. And General Theophilus Danjuma retired, mentioned at the time also that the military may be colluding on ethnic cleansing. And the big question some of us are asking is that if you have these internally displaced people, who is taking over their territories? And what the Islamic States of West Africa is coming to do now is to push that agenda of taking up territories within Nigeria. And the strategy is to go to the people who feel terrified by the terrorism and offer them support.
Okay. And
begin to levy taxes on them, offer them what they appear not to be gaining from their government. And that is a sign, a serious sign of governance failure, if you ask me. Okay. And I'm not so surprised if I go back to the comment by President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces when he was assuming office in 2015, that Boko Haram has been technically defeated. And I think in other areas, this Boko Haram appears to be growing in their exploits. So right now we've come to the point where Nnamdi Kanu is not the big issue. The big issue now is that, is Nigeria united? Can we unite Nigeria? Should Nigeria be the capital of poverty? Should dollar rate be 500 naira? Should we be, should we be preparing for increase the pump price of petroleum? Should we be dealing with the food inflation that's about 22%? Should the hardship in the land, the unemployment, continue the bloodshed?
I know.
These
are germane questions, and I really wish that Mr. President was here. I would love to ask those questions. But in closing, because we're out of time, Professor Wokocha, going forward, Ohanaeze Ndigbo has come out to say that there was a false press release that was, put out in their name. They've come out to say that they had not put out any release. They have nothing to say on Nnamdi Kanu's arrest. Everybody's just asking that he be, tried fairly. Because obviously all eyes will be on this case. But going forward, do you see any push? Do you envisage any push or any reactions coming from his followers? Because there seem to have been a big following and a lot of sympathizers of Nnamdi Kanu. Do you see people coming out in their numbers to probably attack the government, saying that maybe the government is just, using the sledgehammer on an ant?
I do not think so. At the point at which this arrest was made, so much has already happened in the Southeast, and his followers have already played so much role, and so much conflict has already happened. So much lives have been lost, officially reported and unofficially, and unreported, that I do not think that I'm expecting much more from his background at the moment. From his section at the moment. I am more concerned with what my learned friend just raised. Government needs to change its policy. Let's not go far. I listened to the president address the nation on Arise TV, in the interview he granted to Arise. He made two statements I found very disturbing, and I think this nation needs to take seriously. First, he said, we have cousins around us, which implies that, and then he tied up that one with saying that we can't just rule a line on the sand and separate people. So I take that to mean that our borders in those areas where this influx is coming from are officially open as a government policy. They are officially open. And when he was confronted with the fact that herdsmen are killing people, he said those are foreign herdsmen. So if we have to leave the borders open because we can't rule a line in the sand and separate people, and those who are coming are killing people and displacing them in their positions, it means we have a problem on our hand, and it will fire the kind of reactions and the kind of activities that has led our discussion today. People are going to be disgruntled. Displaced people are going to react and all that. It's time for our government to take this matter seriously, that it cannot be business as usual, and we need to confront the Nigerian problem properly and get the Nigerian people to participate in resolving that problem if we want to make progress.
Well, I want to thank you. Jide Ologun is a lawyer, and of course, Professor Richard Wokocha is a professor at the University of Rivers State University, and he is of the Department of Public Law. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of this conversation.